great off season. I thought about whether I could say something different, but we generally always have really good off seasons, get a lot of work accomplished. Much different this year in the fact that I think it's 28 new players that we have on our roster for the spring, which is considerably different. Most years in the past, you're looking at 3 or 4 new players. So finding our way through, getting everybody together rep-wise, and trying to get schemes built in all 3 phases to benefit us for the summer, where guys can practice on their own and obviously get ready for August. But it's good to be out here, good to get rolling again.
Let's start with Coach Nardo and what you liked about him when you came across him, and what it's been like implementing his system.
I think he was the best coach available for the fit here at Oklahoma State. And he brings a little bit of a unique style. We can play 3 down. We'll be able to play 4 down. We'll take what his system is. He's been involved in multiple systems over his career. We'll morph it into our defense here at Oklahoma State, along with him and the defensive staff, and what I think is best. And that process started, 2 months ago, and today we'll get a chance to see it out here, and they'll go through some growing pains, but hopefully we can morph this into what we think is best at Oklahoma State as we move forward, having multiple style defense.
Mike, when you were looking to fill that hole, were you looking for a coach, or were you looking for somebody who fit a style that you wanted to move to?
Well, he's going to have his own style, and so he obviously is going to be able to run what he thinks is best along with the defensive staff. There were a lot of things over the last 2 or 3 years that we were pretty good at defensively, so we don't want to go away from those, particularly third downs. We've been really good on third downs, and we have some good ideas, some things that when he came in, he was like, this is really good stuff. So we're going to try to morph this. It gives us, it's no mystery. We'll be more 3 down than we've been in the past, but we'll still run 4 down. So we're going to try to morph it into what we think is best for Oklahoma State.
There will be some personnel changes that are kind of intriguing, like maybe Colin Oliver playing back off the line a little bit. Some of those things that when you think about that could be something pretty cool.
Yeah, well, with the change of not being as much 4 down, then we'll have other players that are standing up looking at the ball. And we've got guys that are built in that position. Colin's one of them that we think allows us to become a better defense and allows him to be put in a position to better himself for his career both. So we have 2 things going there.
What makes you think Alan Bowman was a good fit to come in here and how he worked with this offense?
So he brings maturity. He's had a lot of reps, been in a lot of games, been around good coaching, in my opinion. And when he came in and we spent time with him, and really liked his appearance, the way he carried himself, very humble. So we're excited about bringing him in and giving him a chance to be out here and compete with the other quarterbacks.
Is there any talk about who's going to be the quarterback, or just a straight open competition?
Yeah, it is. And one of the more difficult things that we have to work through now is we have, I said, I think it's around 28 new players. So there's really not enough reps for everybody in the spring to really make final decisions, and I told the team that. That's why it's important. We're going to get as much work as we can, but this will be a very unusual spring in that it's different from that standpoint. So everybody's going to have a chance to compete. We're going to try to spread the reps around at all positions the best we can. I know that's not feasible, but we're going to do the best we can until we get to the very latter part of spring, and then we might try to solidify some spots.
When a quarterback, you think that this is a decision that will go into August? Is that what you said?
It's hard to say. It depends on what happens with the reps out here. And it would be unfair for me to say one way or the other.
Coach, you said that it was a good off-season. One big difference, you didn't have that competition day. You used that for more learning on the field with walkthroughs and so forth. How big a head start did those give you on getting ready for this day one?
Well, hopefully quite a bit. That gave us an additional 4 days, 5 days of an hour and a half that we use for football. In our opinion, it's a mandatory now with all the new players. the best chance at Oklahoma State. And I feel like that we're in a good position right now for the start of spring ball.
With the massive influx of new players you have, the players that left, does that change what you try to accomplish in the spring ball when you have that much turnover?
We've always want to accomplish as much as we can to come out of spring ball with a pretty good idea of the depth chart. The challenge will be, in the past, let's just say on average over the last 10 years, 3 or 4 really newcomers that would come into the program. Then the numbers increased, but those were high school kids. They're a long ways off. High school kids are a long ways off. So you would get a grad transfer or 2, and then a couple JUCO kids. Now you have as many as 18 players that could potentially play some in the first game that we're trying to get a look at. So the goal hadn't changed, just trying to get it accomplished, and the process to get to that point is what's changed.
The process of getting fullbacks, tight ends, dividing that again, and who you got in the portal, guys like Edenfield and Josiah Johnson. How do you feel about that?
Well, they've worked hard. I like where they're at. You know, Josiah's come in here and worked hard. He's 23 pounds heavier than when he walked in here in January. I would guess he'll gain another 12 to 15 prior to August. Edfield's already a big guy. 2 different type of players, a little bit like Jarwin and Beach, from the standpoint of we need those type of players in our offensive system now so we can rush the ball better. It's not a secret. And so we understood where we were deficient. Had nothing to do with the personnel we had, but those guys weren't recruited here for what we feel like we need to get accomplished in order to be able to rush the football.
Mike, you lost a lot of players in the portal. You got a lot, but you lost a lot. Different kinds of reasons. Some of those guys were surprised. Did that rock you when you heard some of the guys leaving? Or is that just a new reality?
Well, I was just as surprised on some guys as other people were, but it's not going to surprise me anymore. I've talked with the staff about it. The portal opens back up in about a month, I think, or something like that. I'm not for sure. There will be guys go in that will be a surprise. I think that's the wave of the future. It's driven by a lot of different reasons. There's 3 reasons in most cases players transfer. One, they can come in. The majority of guys that came in talked to me said, well, Coach, I'm not really going to get a chance to be a starter here. I want to go somewhere where I can supposedly be a starter or play. 2 can be money, whether we like it or not. It's not supposed to be money driven, but it is. And then 3 is a guy just says, I want to go somewhere else. I don't feel like I've gotten my best opportunity here. I'm not comfortable in this environment. I just want to go somewhere else. With the exception of the long-term guys that just want to do something new, like Spencer. Been here 5 years, played a bunch of games. I want to go play somewhere new. So that's what transpires with kids, most of them. And I would say that's probably over 90% of them.
Do you feel good when you look at who you lost the portal, who you had the portal? Pretty close to even, or?
I mean, I'm going to say yes. We lost a lot of maturity with Spencer. Bowman's mature, but he hadn't had a lot of reps in 2 years. So I've looked at that, and the way the portals is moving, I think is going to be beneficial. It's going to be somewhat hazardous and uncertain from the standpoint that we can't prepare for that as coaches because we don't really know. But what it does is, whether we like it or not, it's becoming the NFL. So if there's players that end up being here that maybe aren't quite of the level that we need to perform throughout their career to be successful, those guys will have a chance to leave in the portal. And I think there'll be organizations across the country that will tell those guys and suggest you need to go in the portal. Now people won't admit that, but that's a fact. And then you're going to have players leave, and then you bring other guys in. Like Leon Johnson, he came from, what's the name of that school?
George Fox.
Okay, did anybody know there was a George Fox? You got to be honest. Like, you've been around 100 years, and you know a lot of schools.
Never heard of it.
And I'm good with schools and stuff. I honestly, I had no idea there was a George Fox. And it'll be interesting to watch him. He's 6'6", 5", something like that. He's already gained 15 pounds, and I think he vertical 36 inches. And he was a basketball player, and somebody may correct me. Daddy's a basketball coach, I believe.
Baseball center fielder that looked pretty
Right, but I think his daddy's a basketball coach.
Yes.
Daddy didn't get to come on the visit because he had games. Mama came with him. Already has a math degree from George Fox. And he's 6'6", he's got big hands, he's athletic, he's a three-sport guy, and he vertical jumped 35 inches. So how was he at George Fox? And we'll find out. That's what's intriguing about it.
Well, and the rumor is a San Diego Chargers scout that he knew by relationship or something said you really ought to go try yourself at D1.
Yeah, see, I mean, I don't know. There was so much going on. Those stories haven't gotten to. But, you know, to kind of answer the question, we're going to find out where we're at with the swap out of players. What we tried to do is if we swapped 3 wideouts, said they left, we tried to bring 3 wideouts in. If one of them had 3 years of experience and was young, we kind of looked for a guy that we felt like could replace that type of player. If one of them was a 1-year guy, then we tried to bring a 1-year guy in to try to keep our numbers balanced, because my fear is getting your numbers skewed. That can happen if you're not careful, and we might not always be able to control that. That's the one thing that I'm a little concerned with right now. But we accept it, we do the best we can, and one goes out, you bring one in. That's really what we're down to.
Mike, there was some talk this offseason about kind of some schematic changes on kind of in the run game. What does that kind of look like going into spring?
Oh, I think we didn't run the ball good enough for 2 years. So, I mean, that's really I don't know that if people run counters, they run zones, they run pole play, they run power, they run speed option. We didn't run it very good. So, as Robert mentioned earlier, it's no secret, we went out and picked up what would be traditional tight ends, and we feel like that can help us in the running game. So it's not so much what the schemes are, because pretty much all of us do the same thing. It's how well we can execute it, the players that are executing it, and how well we get it coached up. And I think the tight end will help us do some of that. That's really the truth of what we're trying to accomplish in the running game. There's not any secrets.
Talking about
to Joe Bob and Duffy, how are their roles going to change in coaching staff?
I wanted to give them a little more responsibility. Obviously, Brian comes in and he's calling plays. Brian has the final say. He's called plays 8 or 9 years. I'm not sure which one it is. And he was very willing to come in and sit and listen. And those guys have been with me a long time. So the added responsibility, I think, is important. And their added game week responsibility comes with that. Whether we like it or not, Brian comes in as a young guy that people are looking at. I feel like we'll do really well on defense in a few years. If that happens, I'll have a hard time keeping it. So I have to get people ready to try to roll through this thing and move on.
It's the third defensive scheme in 3 years for these guys. Is that hard, continuity-wise, comfortability-wise, for the players learning a different scheme each and every offseason?
Yeah, we didn't really change schemes a lot last year. Some, but not a lot. We went through a big transition in year 3 with Coach Knowles. I wasn't happy with where we were at that time, so we made some considerable changes then. Jim bought in and said, okay, we'll do it, and we changed quite a bit then. Not as much last year. This is a change because of more 3 down. So the players are going to have to buy in. The coaches are going to have to understand simplicity. And let's just get good at what we can get good at to slow people down, and we'll try to build on it. But we're not going to be able to do it all in 1 year. It's just not going to happen.
When you look around the country to some of the other,
I can't do it.
as you look around to the Big 12 and other defenses,
Well, I did a lot of research. I think that, I'll speak to this league. One of the reasons I wanted to do some 3 down is because teams in this league have struggled with 3 down. And now that doesn't mean, I'm talking about apples and apples, okay? I'm not talking about one team that's more talented than the other, because it doesn't make a difference what you run. Apples to apples, we offensively have not been excited about the challenge of what the 3 down has done in this league. And I've seen other teams struggle with it. so I wanted to investigate. I wanted to look into it. I wanted to learn it. I spent 6 weeks learning it. I know a lot about it now. I'm an offensive guy. I did a lot of research. Spent a lot of time with guys. Interviewed really, really good coaches. And it was very beneficial for me and our staff because they interviewed with me. We learned a lot. So we felt like that being able to play and compete in some 3 down and then try to morph that into what we want defensively would benefit us in the long run.
Mike, going back to the run game, what have you seen from the offensive line, and do you like how it looks going into spring?
They've had a good offseason, and you guys know this last year. We were hurt last year. We had 19 guys on the bikes over there. That's an exaggeration. There was a waiting line for the bikes over there, like Planet Fitness. And we don't have anybody this year. That hurt us last spring. The majority of our offensive line did not practice last spring. And whether we like it or not, sorry about that, whether we like it or not, that hurts. So we're further ahead just from that standpoint. We have a legitimate 3.5 deep at every position. One thing the portal's done is allowed us to be 3.5 deep out here in practice. We're going to rotate guys through. You know, just like quarterbacks. Bowman will work with the 1s and 2s and 3s. And Rangel will work 1s and 2s and 3s. And Gunner will work 1s and 2s and 3s. And we'll bring Zane along. I don't know where he'll be, but whatever he can get accomplished, it'll be more difficult. But all the positions, we have that luxury this spring.
Kind of on that same though, what have you seen from Jaden and Ollie's development this offseason?
They're bigger and stronger and faster, and mentally, you know, we got a lot out of Ollie last year being a true freshman. That's a difficult role for a young man to play, specifically running back, take a lot of hits. And we saw signs of him doing really good things, and then there's also signs of fatigue. The fatigue should shorten and lessen this year based on his maturity and strength. Same thing with Jaden.
You went back to Pennsylvania State after the contract. Is that a coincidence or not?
Yeah, it was coincidence. It just happened to be him. Spent a lot of time at Emporia State. He was at Youngstown prior to that. I didn't start pulling tape up on him. I started watching video all across the country for what I thought we needed, what you brought up and what I thought we needed. There's only this many of them that actually understand that system. I went and interviewed all of them. But you can count them on one hand. I went everywhere. I looked everywhere. I looked in high school. I mean, I had a problem hiring a high school guy. There was a couple good guys, high school coaches, that are qualified for this job. I just didn't get to that point. Once I found Brian, and he was not the first person I interviewed. He was down the line. And I didn't even know Gannon was in that league. I didn't know where Gannon was. I didn't know Gannon existed. Nothing against Gannon, I just didn't know. So it was a coincidence. And he was down the line by the time I got to him. And was planning on grabbing him for a couple hours. Wasn't sure. I thought it would be just an informative interview. It ended up being 6.5 hours long. And afterwards, he's the guy, the best guy. Make a difference where he came from, he's the best guy. So then I did my research, calling all the people he worked for, and he either paid everybody off or whatever, but nobody could say anything bad about the guy as a person and a football coach. And so that's how we got to the point we hired him.
Mike, when you look at the youth and the running back, what do you get from a guy like Elijah Collins?
He's kind of like Bowman. Experience, played at Michigan State, a physical league, played in the eye, you know, quarterback under center some, going to run the ball inside, going to get banged around, had success, great attitude, wanted to be here. That was part of the portal's so crazy now, it's hard to really get your arms around it, but we tried to bring in players we thought that wanted to be here, that weren't coming here out of desperation. And he was one of those guys that really wanted to be here.
Do you think having already faced defenses like the big one,
it's going to help him? Yeah, I mean, he's at an advantage that he's had a lot of experience in running between the tackles and getting beat up on. It's an advantage for him.
Mike, is it hard to do due diligence in the transfer portal because of how quick it moves?
Yeah. It would take me 2 hours to sit down with you, more than that, 5 hours to sit down with you guys and go over all the stuff that happens in the portal. And you don't do due diligence. Like, I'll give you one example. we bring players in on visits. We do all of the grade checks, the transcripts. They get cleared through the clearinghouse, all that stuff. Okay. Well, when the portal's taking place, college is not in session. The students are out, right? During bowl practice, the students are out. Well, the professors, and they're not around. The universities are closed. So you have young men coming in on visits that we're seeing on the portal. We say we want them. We go after them. We make contact, bring them in on a visit. We don't even know what their academic records are. How are we going to know that? We can't wait. If we wait, we lose. We had a few kids came in, had a visit, was great, they left. We found out they weren't even eligible. They just took a free visit. That's true. But how are you going to know? I mean, next January 3rd, call down to any campus in the country and ask for the engineering department, the college, the counseling office to get a transcript and see if anybody answers the phone. Nobody. And so it was very entertaining, for lack of a better word, during that time.
Stadium's under renovation, so it wasn't going to happen. But did you guys look at any other options on holding the spring game this spring?
It's not beneficial for us to do anything other than what we're doing. We're going to be in this situation for 2 years. They're going to do the other side next year. You know, we talked about trying to expedite the process. There's just no way that they can do it any faster, and it's not beneficial for us with the rules we have to follow for us to leave the campus.
So you won't have a spring game next year either?
Unless they figure out a way to do that. From what I understand, when the season's over, this side will be done. And then next year, as soon as the season's over, they're going to tear up the other side.
Coach, you're about through stretch. I don't know if you need to get to practice.
Nah, they can straight. I'm good.
And Mike, how's Gundy's recovery coming along?
He's healthy now. He got healthy they released him about 2 weeks ago.
My
Program's going to. Go ahead.
Do you have any idea how good you're going to be? It seems like we're in a period where nobody knows who's going to be. The TCU comes out of nowhere, plays the national title. 6 different schools have played the last 3 Big 12 titles. Do you have any idea who's good, including yourself?
No, and I said this to you guys 4 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever. There's more parity now than ever. That was prior to the portal. So just give this some thought. There's 28 new guys here. There'll be 37 when we start in August. I threw out the number 18. I don't know, maybe 20. 20 new guys can be playing. Not at once. So how do you know how good you're going to be? You really don't. It's going to change year to year. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all transpires. Once college football or whoever, the new board or committee they're going to make, or whoever's going to be the driving force with, once they control NIL, whenever that day is, then we'll start to get a pretty good vision of what's going to happen. Right now, nobody has a clue.
And you got 4 new schools coming in that you don't know anything about.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot about Houston, kind of. We don't know jack about Cincinnati and UCF. We've all watched BYU. You know you're going to be playing 24, 25, 26-year-olds. But it's going to be really interesting in this league. I think it's going to be good. I think that the buyout with OU and Texas rolling early, I think is positive because they're wanting to. They need to go on their way. We need to get our new league started and get everybody established and start to kind of feel our way through it. I think it's going to be productive. I think it's going to energize the fans. People will be excited about it. Anything else?
Good.